About a year ago, Dyadic announced a partnership with Proliant Health, a manufacturer and supplier of proteins serving the life sciences and other markets. This arrangement started off with a series of milestones and has progressed a lot since then. A few months ago, Dyadic announced that it expects a commercial launch of C1-produced albumin. So, Joe, how did this partnership come about, and how has the journey been to this point?
The partnership came about as we were looking at the landscape of partners that could potentially help us commercialize recombinant albumin. Proliant very rapidly, came to the top of the list. They are the second largest producer of naturally derived bovine albumin in the world. They have ready-made distribution and a confirmed and established customer base that's global, and have commercialized many products. And recombinants fit well into their system, and we both have the interest in ensuring access to non-animal solutions for albumin as well as other products. So they made the absolute right partner for us, and we're continuing to accelerate and scale up. And the target launch is third quarter of this year with some research-grade products in that segment, and then looking to expand into higher-grade applications in the future.
Okay. Now, you started with albumin, but there are a lot of other products in the cell culture media space that look attractive, and we've talked about those before. Why don't you share with us some of those and why they're attractive?
So the transferrin and growth factors are attractive. They are the next in our pipeline for cell culture media, and they're attractive for a couple reasons. They're extremely expensive, and there's not a lot of cost-effective or even quality recombinant options out there today. So we have the opportunity, through being able to produce some of these at much higher levels and a greater cost efficiency, to truly impact the market in a positive way. So we're going to continue to expand and look at, just in the growth factor segment, there's probably 10 to 12 different kinds of growth factors that can be looked at and developed. We're currently starting with FGF because it's one of the larger segments, but quickly looking at TGFs and IGFs. There's so many other categories that we can get into, and again, these are needed in kind of small amounts, so we also don't need a large footprint to actually manufacture and sell these products. We can do these in 25, 50 liter fermenters, and you could produce quite a lot of it. So that's one of the keys as well. We don't need to invest in infrastructure.
Yeah, one thing you were saying earlier is that in the cup that's sitting in front of you, if you filled that with some of these products, it could be worth up to $1 million. Which ones look the most attractive and have the highest margin of the list? And I think we've heard about the DNase 1, the TDT transferase, T4 DNA ligase, and there are about 2 or 3 others besides that are out there that you've mentioned, Dyadic has mentioned.
And it's a great question. It's a function of 2 things. It's also a function of how much is actually used in application. So I would say growth factors are probably the highest cost, along with your TDT transferases, T4, T7 polymerases, and ligases. Those tend to be the very high cost ones because they're used in smaller quantities, but you also have to manufacture them at very high purity and exacting standards. So they're a little more difficult to produce. Those are the ones that I would say will be the highest margin, but you look at the ones where there's the biggest need, it would be things like transferrin, where there aren't a lot of solid recombinant options out there today.
Yeah, and that was my next question, is not all of these are recombinant, and a lot of them are animal produced, which actually limits the availability of the product right there, right?
Yep.
And then another problem with the animal is that it's not pure as the recombinant version of it, right? Maybe you can explain how that all fits in together.
No, and it's a great point. The issue is the market, and again, whether that's the food and nutrition, like cultured meat segment, or whether that's the molecular biology reagent or cell culture media segment, the shift towards non-animal proteins is continuing to grow. And it's simply, to your point, you have consistency, scalability, quality, and purity, and availability, and sustainability, right? Yeah. So pretty much any ability you need, recombinants can produce. The problem is they aren't always cost efficient. Yeah. That is the number one drawback. You could produce a much higher quality and sustainable protein with a recombinant expression platform, But if you cannot bring the costs in line, it just won't be able to be supported by the market. And that's where leveraging our industrial heritage to produce larger amounts of these recombinant proteins and enzymes in these higher value segments really gives Dyadic a strategic advantage in the market.
Okay. I thought I'd finish on a question just about where you see Dyadic in 10 years. I always like to, I think investors, especially in this space, the biopharmaceutical space, the timelines are long, right? So we do have to look forward and ahead like that. Where do you see Dyadic in 2035?
Well, I think, the one thing I would say is the timelines for revenue, to me, are not long. We are starting to produce products today that will drive recurring revenue in the near future. Obviously, we want to accelerate and expand that as quickly as possible. So while you're right, the horizon of the company, I do believe is quite long. I think our trajectory, our revenue trajectory, can be accelerated much quicker now that our focus is on product opportunities and not R&D and licensing revenues. And what I'd like to see, in 2035 is expansion of our portfolios such that we can also support some additional opportunities in food and nutrition, as well as the bioindustrial space. And it's simply because there is a higher need for non-animal proteins in food and nutrition than there is in something like life sciences, because there's a lot of people focused on it. But food nutrition, you have lower margins, but it's also one area where you need much greater sustainability and the ability to produce more food as the population of the world grows. So just like there is a inequity in terms of access to adequate, healthcare, there's inequity in terms of access to adequate nutrition as well. And I think that's one area, as we move forward, we'll definitely see that. So in 2035, I'd like to see expansion in life sciences to where we're making our own products, and also in the food and nutrition space, whether we're doing that on our own or through partnerships like with Fermbox and others that can produce large amounts of these food proteins and industrial proteins.